Hey, Scott Sambucci here, Chief Sales Geek over at Sales Qualia. Let's talk about the second Sales Accelerators, the second of 9 Sales Accelerator. Today, what I want to talk about is authority voice. So first of all, what are the Sales Accelerators? So every startup that's getting out of startup mode and building towards scale needs to implement what we call the 9 Sales Accelerators. These are 9 selling systems around how you generate leads, how you work your sales pipeline, and how you convert and keep your paying customers happy. And so today what I want to talk about is what we call authority voice, how to show your authority voice to your marketplace. And here's why this is important. I mean, think about your company, think about your product, think about why you started your company in the first place. You started your company because you saw a problem in the marketplace. You saw the problem that nobody else was solving the right way, or none of the existing solutions were solving at all. And you know more about that problem than probably anybody in the world, including your prospects, because that's all you're doing each and every day. And so it's your responsibility, and frankly, it's your opportunity to show your market, show your prospects how you can help them with their problem by teaching them, by educating them, by leading them to the right solution, as opposed to simply selling to them. So let me just sort of talk about the importance of authority voice from the perspective of the buyer, and why it's so important that you build and show your authority voice as part of your sales process. And then number 2 thing that I want to do today is show you a really simple model that I call educate, separate, indoctrinate. Okay, so let's talk about authority voice from the perspective of your buyers. Right? There's lots of different maps out there that talk about the buyer journey. But at the end of the day, it's really, really simple. When you think about your prospects, there's kind of 3 main steps that they go through whenever they're thinking about or considering to make a buying decision. So the first step, number 1, is they become problem aware. They become problem aware. So that's just a company saying, look, we have a problem with our current system, we have a problem with our current platform, we have a problem with our current process. And they basically decide, okay, we know that there's a problem. They've identified the problem, and they start to investigate more reasons why that problem exists. Is it something wrong with the process? Is it something wrong with the people? Is it something wrong with the products they might be using to solve that problem? So step number 1 is they become problem aware. Okay. So step number 2 is if they decide they want to pursue the next stage of their buying journey, then they become what's called solution aware. And that just means that they're going out and doing a bunch of research. They're going to websites, they're requesting demos, they're talking to their current vendors, they're talking to their current suppliers. They might be going to virtual events, online conferences, in-person events, whatever it is, wherever the places are and the ways that they can collect information about solutions that might solve the problem that they've identified. That's step number 2. So step number 1 is they become problem aware. Step number 2 is they become solution aware. Then step number 3 is they reach a decision. And that decision, of course, it may mean that they're going to purchase a product like yours. They might purchase from you. They might purchase from a competitor, right? They have other decisions they can make. They can decide to do nothing, right? They could decide to wait to make a decision. They could decide to hire consultants. They could decide to go back to their current solution and try to improve it somehow. They could make a decision to audit their current process and see if there's a change in a department that might be handling this problem. There's all kinds of different decisions that they can make. It doesn't necessarily mean a buying decision. They're just going to make a decision as to whether or not to take action on the problem that they've identified. So we know that buyers go through this process. And again, there's different buyer journey maps that you might see that have a lot more steps, but this is just like basic fundamentals. So this is why authority voice, and this is where authority voice becomes really, really important. Because when you look at the data out there, and there's different studies out there from Gartner Group, Rain Sales, Miller Heiman, lots of different companies have researched this. If you look at this process, right, I'm going to draw a red line here. And the reason I'm drawing a red line is because most of your buyers are accruing information, they're doing research, and they're identifying problems and solutions without you. So a lot of the numbers I've seen out there are somewhere around 57%, meaning that 57% of the buyer's work happens before they contact you or any other vendors. They might go to a website and request a demo. They might go and request white papers. They might hop on webinars, but they're not directly contacting you to get your help. They're spending 57% of their buying process, their decision process, their research process before they get on a call with you, right? And even worse, about 67% of that is now done digitally, meaning that they're spending that time online. They're looking at downloading white papers, coming to webinars, listening to podcasts, going to conferences online, all those different mediums that are now digital. And so for you as a seller, think about that. If by chance they happen to find you as part of that first 60 or 70% of their buying process, if by chance they happen to find you and you haven't done anything to help them understand their problem, and certainly haven't done anything to help position how your solution fits into their problem, now you're going to be stuck in that famous situation is like, hey, show us the demo. We want to see what you got. We're talking to 5 different vendors. We want to see how yours compares to them. Like, you've missed out in an opportunity ultimately to help them form how they're thinking about their problem, how they should be thinking about the problem, and how they should be thinking about the right solution to their problem. And this is exactly where your authority voice strategy comes in. Authority voice strategy comes in because it's your opportunity to shape and mold and teach and lead and educate your prospects about their problem and how they need to be thinking about the solution. And so that brings me to a really simple model that I want to share with you about how you need to go about and how you need to think about your authority voice strategy. So I like to think in really simple models. And so if we draw a really simple 2x2 here, and on the x-axis here, let's call this the old way of doing things. And on the right-hand side, let's call this the new way of doing things. And on the top, we want to talk about where you fall on the spectrum relative to the rest of the market. And so if you're a startup, especially if you're a startup, you've built the solution, you've built the product, and it's probably a new innovation in the marketplace. You probably didn't start your startup, you probably didn't build your product because you want it to be just like every other solution that's out there. In a lot of ways, everything you're doing is new. You're getting your prospects to think about the problem in a whole new way. That's how you build your product in the first place. And so the challenge that you have as a seller is that most of your prospects are starting here. This is where prospects sit today. And the reason they sit here today is that they're using old technology or old systems or old processes, and they're using what's available to them or what they think is available to them in the market. So what are some of those? I mean, we just think about some of the ways, think about your own customers, your own prospects. What are they doing right now in terms of the problems that they have to try to solve those problems, right? They're probably using things like spreadsheets. I mean, how many people out there as a startup, when you're going in and selling, you're not selling directly to another software company. What you're trying to do is get them to get away from using spreadsheets or SharePoint, right? Or some kind of manual process. We have a client that works with healthcare systems and hospitals, and they're literally replacing pen and paper in some places. Like, it's 2020, and healthcare systems are using pen and paper for competency and compliance programs. And so they have to show how their product is going to replace those manual processes. So they're using SharePoint, they're using Excel, they're using pen and paper. They might be using some 1990s tech or older. I remember when I was at Blend and we were working with a mortgage servicing operation in the early stages of our company. They were using DOS-based screens, like ridiculous stuff, right? Really, really old technology. But this is where, as a startup, this is probably where your prospects are sitting right now. They're using the old way of solving the problem, and they're using what they think is available in the market. And this is the first step of building and showing your authority voice, is we need to, before we even talk about our product, before we even try to show a demo, even before we try to sell them anything, the first thing we need to do is we need to educate them, right? We need to get them from thinking about the old way to the new way. So the first step is educate. And so what we need to do is get them thinking about what are the new ways that they could be solving this problem. And again, it's irrespective of your specific product. We want to get them thinking about things like workflows, or maybe it's automation, right? Maybe it's using AI as a way to replace the manual process or human-driven performance. It's some other form of technology. It could be like a more of a systems approach. Could be an integrated or data-driven approach. Could be something like doing real time. Like these are all ways that if you think about the old way that your prospects are doing things, we need to first teach them about what are the new ways. Irrespective of your solution, we just got to first make sure that they're on board with going from the old to the new, right? So that's step number one. And this is where authority voice becomes really, really important. Your authority voice here is your opportunity to teach your prospects about the difference between the old and the new, right? And this is where some of the strategies that you see others are using out there are highly effective, right? Authority voice could be something simple as running a monthly webinar series. Monthly webinars that just choose a different topic, a different theme around the problem that you solve. It could be a podcast. We have clients that are now running their own podcasts where they have a very specific audience and they talk about very specific topics related to their audience. And even though it doesn't have a million listeners, even if it has 100 listeners, if those listeners are your target market, what you're doing is you're helping your prospects think about their problem, right? You could be a guest on other podcasts. We have some clients that are going around and being guests on other podcasts. So without having to produce their own show, they're getting their authority voice out there. It could be speaking at events and conferences. It could be creating your own event. We have another client that just ran what they call the Retail Crime Summit. They had over 2,000 people across the world join them for a couple of days where they set up this online event and it positioned them as an authority in their marketplace for the people that have the problem that they solve, right? It could be a white paper. It could be something as simple as a long form blog post, right? It could be a book that you've written. Books are much easier to write than you think they are, right? And I'm not saying that you need to do all of these things. What I'm saying is like pick one, right? You need one opportunity. You need one place that as you're going out and contacting your prospects and helping them understand their problem, you need one place to send them so that you can position yourself as the expert. You can position yourself as the person that's educating them on how they need to be thinking about the problem and how they need to be thinking about the solutions to those problems, right? So if you do that effectively, number one, now what you've done is you've created an environment where you've given yourself permission to do step two, which is separate. Because if you think about what are we looking at down here? Down here, we're talking about the market, right? You know there may be other solutions out there, other competitors, whether it's another startup, another mid-sized company, or a Fortune 500 company like Google or Oracle or somebody else who says they have a solution that is AI-driven or automation-driven or systems approach or data-driven, whatever that is, right? So down here, we're still competing with the rest of the market as part of the education process. But once we've educated our prospects, now what we've done is we've gotten them listening, right? Going back to this model, right? We've gone from this idea of problem aware to now they're listening to you about what kind of solutions should I consider as part of my decision process down the road, right? And so once you separate, once you've done the education, then you can separate yourself. And this is where you're positioning you as the new and right solution. You're up here, right? Your market is down below, you're up. So it's a two-step process because if you've done this correctly, the third thing that happens, and you've seen this, I know that you've seen this with some of your customers, is that they have become step three, which is indoctrinate. Once they buy into the new way of doing things, then they can buy into how you are the right solution for them. You've effectively indoctrinated them in this new way. And separating yourself from the rest of the market, you don't really have any competitors, right? Because you've taught them about their problem, you've shown them what solutions they need to consider, and ultimately now, by doing those things, you put yourself and separated yourself in a way that you have indoctrinated them as to why you are the right solution for them. So this is why you need to build an authority voice strategy. Number one, you need to make sure that you're getting front and center with your prospects before they reach out to you. Once they've been to your website and requested a demo, it's too late in a lot of cases. You're already playing catch up. So instead, in a digital world where you have an opportunity to reach your target market, right? You have an opportunity to very quickly and easily share your authority voice on places like LinkedIn, on getting people onto your marketing list, on creating webinars in order to continue to build that list. If you're not doing those things, by the time you get to the request to demo, you're already behind and you're going to be playing catch up. You're going to be playing catch up against competitors, or you're going to be playing catch up in the minds of the prospect because they will have already made 60% or more of the decision before even getting in touch with you. And then that's why it becomes so hard to get people to change into your way of doing things. This is why if you've been in that situation where somebody requests a demo and you've talked to them and you realize like, wow, they've been researching options for months and they've already decided on what kind of solution they think they need. Now you're in feature competition. Well, we have this and you want that. We have this and that competitor has that. The problem is you waited too long to get in front of the customers. They've made that most of that decision without you. You didn't have a chance to help them form their thinking about the problem and the solution. So this is the authority voice strategy. This is why we call it one of the 9 sales accelerators. Because if you do this the right way, number one, it's going to help you fill your funnel. We talked about funnel fillers in the past. If you are using your authority voice, it's an opportunity for you, instead of just like cold emailing people and asking them for a demo. Like if you're really clear on your ICP, your ideal customer profile, and you're sending them emails that are high value, where you're sharing content, you're sharing authority voice, you're sharing information for them to help them understand a lot more about their problem. Now you've positioned yourself as a leader in the market where they want to follow you instead of you chasing them. So if you put this into work, if you build and implement that authority voice strategy, it's going to accelerate your sales because you're not going to be playing catch up with everyone else. You're actually going to be leading your market. You're going to be leading your prospects. And it's going to be much, much easier for you to fill the top of your funnel and get your prospecting plan of action in place. So that's it. That's today's lesson on the authority voice, the authority voice sales accelerator. If you want some help with this is one of our areas of expertise. It's one of the systems that we help our clients build and implement every single day. We work with early stage and late stage, or early stage and growth stage startups. So if you're a seed round funded B2B startup, A round, and you're looking for ways to accelerate your sales, give your sales team and give yourself better leverage with your customers, have better conversations, and really position yourself as the authority that you know that you are in your marketplace, then you should probably have a conversation with us because we might be able to help. So just send me a DM or shoot me an email. You can send me an email at Scott, SCOTT, at salesqualia, QUALIA.com. Just write the word private or accelerator, whatever you want. Just say, hey, I want to have a quick chat to see how you and your team might be able to help me out. And we'll hop on a call. Have a 15-minute chat, see if or how we can help you. And if we can spend some more time together. And if not, then that's okay too. So that's it for now. That's the authority voice strategy. Make sure you get out there and figure out and identify how you can educate, separate, and indoctrinate your prospects. All right. That's it for now. Scott Sambucci signing off.